You're listening to U Radio. Let your voice be heard. My name is Ryan Funk, here on U Talk, a program dedicated to diversity, highlighting native-born and new Canadians' cultures and experiences. Manitoba and Winnipeg has a vibrant Jewish community and has been home to many since the mid-1870s. This year, Congregation Shaarey Zedek is celebrating its 130th anniversary. Rena Secter Elbaze is the Director of Engagement and Education, a new position that was created in 2016 to engage people within the community.
They wanted me to develop a whole series of different educational programs for adults, so it's informal education. Mm-hmm. And that involves courses that I teach myself, but also putting together a program where our rabbis and other professionals within our synagogue can provide courses. So I myself teach a Hebrew course. Mm-hmm. Right now online, I have 25 students every week, which is really exciting.
Ooh, nice.
I'm also running a program for women. And we do 3 different courses a year, but it seems that people are really thirsty for things like that right now. And what I've been trying to do is to bring together my communications and business experience and bring in different elements of Jewish wisdom and Jewish learning to give it a Jewish perspective. And people really enjoy it because it's relevant, it's modern, it applies to what they're doing professionally. Mm-hmm. And yet it has this ancient wisdom that everybody needs in their lives. Mm-hmm. So I've been doing all those kind of courses. Before the pandemic hit, I was also running a variety of holiday programs. Like a week before we went into lockdown in March, I had an event at the synagogue for the holiday of Purim, which is sort of a Mardi Gras celebration. So now I've had to put all of those exciting programs to online versions. We did in the spring a challah bake, the bread that we eat on the Sabbath, the challah. Okay. So I had done an in-person event with 30 people. We did it again online, and I had 1,700 viewers.
Wow.
Unbelievable.
That is unbelievable. That's crazy. That's amazing.
But I'm also getting people from all over the world. Like in that Hebrew class I had mentioned, I have a person who's in London, England. I have somebody in the States, somebody from Ontario. And also from Argentina.
So how about we transition a little bit into Jewish heritage? The synagogue is celebrating 130 years. That's amazing. Why don't we talk a little bit about the community and culture?
So the Jewish community in Manitoba and in Winnipeg in particular started in the mid-1870s. Mm-hmm. And they were people who were entrepreneurs, but they weren't really interested in creating a community. Then later we had I just did a little bit of research about this. There was a period where there was a lot of, after the death of the Tsar, there was a huge influx of immigrants from Eastern Europe to North America, 100,000 which came to Canada. They were fleeing persecution. And of that, we had about 10,000 that came to Manitoba. And they were very poor. Many of them were peddlers, shopkeepers, and they started a community here in Winnipeg. I would say about 85% of them lived in the North End, but slowly but surely they started to become educated. They learned the language, and they created a whole, they called it a golden Medina, a golden land of opportunity. And they started to build our Jewish community here. I think in the 60s, we were at almost 18,000. Then, as the community became upwardly mobile, people went to university elsewhere. Mm-hmm. So our community shrunk. And about 20 years ago, Jewish Federation of Winnipeg, which is like the organization that is responsible for looking after our community and the community's future, they decided that something had to be done to breathe a little bit of new life into an aging community.
Mm-hmm.
And they went and actively recruited in South America. In Argentina, that there had been a series of terrorist attacks, and people were frightened. I think there was also a financial crisis. And so we sent a mission to South America, and people started to immigrate to Winnipeg. And since then, there's been people from all over the world, from Brazil, from Turkey, from a variety of different communities. And we're back up to about 16,500 people in our community. And it's very vibrant.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So how about we talk a little bit about, life as a Jewish Canadian? I mean, it's probably similar to just being any other Canadian, right?
Yes, well, it is because on one hand, we have a very supportive community. We make sure we look out for those of in our community who are in more fragile circumstances, be it financially, emotionally. So we have a support system, but we also feel as Canadians, we have a responsibility to help other Canadians.
Mm-hmm.
And so you'll often find people who are very philanthropic towards the Jewish community from our own community are also giving back to the general community.
Anti-Semitism, we see it on the news all the time, like in the United States and even here in Canada. In Winnipeg, we've seen, vandalization of synagogues and Jewish grave sites. What are sort of initiatives in education that is currently going on to combat this?
So you have a couple of organizations that are working, some from a legal standpoint, like B'nai B'rith, where they're trying to tackle it from a legal standpoint, and they're dealing with those aspects. And then more for an educational viewpoint, we have CEJA, which is a part of the Jewish Federations of North America, that are providing educational opportunities. So in some situations, there's conferences, there's talks. Mm-hmm. Part of the problem also is taking place on university campuses, which is making it very uncomfortable for students. And often it's a lack of knowledge and exposure. And then there's also an exportation of the Middle Eastern conflict to the campuses. And there's problems with a lack of accurate information. Mm-hmm. And it's very hard to fight it because people aren't necessarily looking for actual information because they already have their feelings about it. Mm-hmm. And so it's hard sometimes to combat the false information with facts because people don't want to know it. Mm-hmm. So it becomes very challenging, very uncomfortable. There was something quite hopeful that I experienced, after that terrible attack in Pittsburgh. Mm-hmm. There was a community rally that was housed in the Shaarey Zedek building. Mm-hmm. And I was so touched to see the turnout just from our community, but from the general community coming out to support us. Over 2,000 people showed up for that event from all walks of life. And so for me, it was hopeful. I think my biggest concern right now is what's happening in the university campuses. And that's something that's ongoing that didn't exist when I was a student. Mm-hmm. Like when I was a student, I remember we had Israel Awareness Week, and it was all sorts of fun and interesting events to get to know Israeli culture. And there wasn't a political aspect. Whereas now you see these very aggressive anti-Israel events on campuses, and Jewish students are feeling very threatened. So this is a new phenomena, and it's going to take a lot of education and awareness and legal action as well.
Mm-hmm. Of course,
we're not as bad as the States, and we're certainly not as bad as what's happening in France. And I'm very sensitive to that because we still have a lot of family in France. Mm-hmm. But I think you have to be vigilant before you get to that stage.
You talk a lot about education, and a part of that is just learning about cultures that are different from your own. What would you like to share about the Jewish peoples and culture to those on the outside? What would you like to share or kind of bring awareness to?
One important factor is that we always are in our religion. One of the important teachings we have is that the Torah, it's compared to a tree of life. Mm-hmm. And we say that all of its paths are of peace. So we're always trying to reach out to others and to provide assistance and support. Mm-hmm. And we try to do that with a lot of the social action projects. The buzzword that seems to be out there in the general population now is tikkun olam, repairing the world. And this is something that means a lot to us. I don't know if you've heard that expression.
And I haven't.
But it's something that we care a lot about is initiatives that will help others. One of the projects that we've been doing at Shaarey Zedek for the past 20 years, which we feel is something that goes along the lines of Tikkun Olam, is serving a Christmas lunch at West Broadway Ministries. Mm-hmm. And we have about 40 volunteers, and we coordinate the food and we serve the food for people who are less fortunate. And especially on that day when people are celebrating Christmas with their families and people in our community are available to help. And that's a project that means a lot to us, sort of on a very specific and focused level. That's an example of one of the things that we feel that is important to do. This year is a bit of a challenge because we aren't gathering. So what we've decided to do is to collect food gift cards, and West Broadway is going to distribute them, but we've put out an initiative to help with that. We've also promoted projects like Coats for Kids. We have a community initiative through National Council of Jewish Women, and we participated as one of the partner organizations where we would collect coats for kids, and we promoted that, and we had people in our community support it. So that's an example of Tikkun Olam, repairing the world, where our community takes its values and reaches out to the general community. And I think it's through initiatives like that people will get to know us and appreciate us. Mm-hmm. It's through positive experiences more than anything else.
Mm-hmm. So it really sounds like the Jewish community is all about paying it forward.
It is. And also, we also try to look after our own. One of our teachings is, if I'm not for myself, who will be for me? So it's like, you put on your oxygen mask and then you help others. And the second part of that saying is, but if I'm for myself alone, what am I? So yes, we look after the people who are underprivileged on our own community, but we don't stop there. So that's something that we learn from a very young age.
So December 10th, Hanukkah, it's coming. I hope I got that date right. So
yes, you did. That's the first candle.
The first candle, yeah. It goes to the 10th to the 18th, I believe, this year.
8 nights.
8 nights, perfect. So what is Hanukkah? For people who aren't Jewish, they see this, they're like, what is this? What is this practice? What's going on here?
So Hanukkah commemorates a miracle that happened. The ancient Israelites, they had a temple in Jerusalem. Mm-hmm. This is like 2,000 years ago. And there was no holy oil left. The temple had been desecrated. And when they reconquered the temple, there was only enough oil to burn for one night. And a miracle happened, and it lasted for 8 nights until they could make more oil. They used pure olive oil. That's why we eat all these fried foods at Hanukkah, to remember the oil. It's really a celebration over light over darkness, especially it's a time of year where it's darker. Mm-hmm. But also at a difficult time such as the one we're living through right now, we need moments of joy. And Hanukkah helps us remember that. So every night for 8 nights. The first night we light 1 candle, the second night we light 2 candles, and all the way up until the 8th night. Mm-hmm. So the light increases as the holiday moves forward. And it's a family celebration. So apparently this year there's going to be a lot of these celebrations on Zoom. If people aren't zoomed out by then.
Yeah.
So, we celebrate with our families. The kids play with this little spinning top called a dreidel. I don't know if you've heard of it. Mm-hmm. And it has these letters on it. So the letters represent a great miracle happened there. And if you live in Israel, a great miracle happened here. And if it falls on the letter, you get a coin or a chocolate coin. So parents usually give their kids coins. But because we live in a country where people give gifts at this time of year, we also have, parents always give their kids gifts as well.
Oh,
we eat fried foods like potato latkes, those fried pancakes, or sufganiyot, which are jam busters.
Okay.
Those are some of the traditional foods.
Rena also would like to highlight another initiative here in Winnipeg. Operation Ezra is a created support structure made of many organizations here in the area for the persecuted Yazidi community by bringing them to Winnipeg and providing supports for them. If you have any stories you'd like us to share or communities we should highlight, leave a comment on our social media or reach out to us on our website. I'm Ryan Funk. This was You Talk, and have yourself a good one.